Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Health Show. This is episode 38th of the Health Show. I'm super excited tonight because tonight I'm going to have Krinza Momin on board. Welcome on board, Krinza. How are you today?
I'm absolutely great. How are you, Asad?
I'm doing great. I'm amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, let's begin. So first of all, tell me about this. Who is Krinza Momin? What's your story? What are you all about?
I'm not sure about the story. But for sure, I think it has been more of me transitioning from confusions to community, and I have always been this kind of visionary. I am always is someone who is filled with ideas, someone who embraces engaging in the conversation about what are the problems that exist around us and how we can solve it through technology, and not just technology per se, but like in any ways. And as a girl who was never expected to be in tech but ended up in it, I think I have now realized that my purpose is to rectify gender imbalance in access and control of the technology. And there's this outdated myth about of this lone genius, which gives boys a very powerful image of to be, very readily
Exactly.
envision their futures in the tech industry. And the opposite rings true for the girls. I mean, you can't be what you can't see. And the lack of female representation in STEM or in tech world, to be specific, I think created a world in which girls just don't fit in. And this is something that I realized very early in my journey, or my story in the tech world. And because when I entered in CS degree program, I was surprisingly clueless, and I realized that I needed help. But the imposter syndrome, I mean, it made me somehow believe that I did not belong there. And the rest is history. I struggled for like 2 years in my university life. I was totally confused. I could not see myself from that place to where I am now. And today it's all because of the communities that I joined in the journey, and tech communities that I founded during the way. And today I'm a proud advocate of women in tech, and not just that, but anyone who aspired to start their journey in tech, because I believe that tech is for everyone. And I particularly empower young generation, especially young girls, to pursue tech as a career, as I believe that invisibility of women in STEM, I think, contributes to very fewer women studying and working in STEM, which creates further invisibility. And so the cycle continues. And I have been educating them about technology, coding, computer science in general. So basically, long story short, I think I'm a community builder. I am a hackathon hustler, because I have won national hackathons, but international hackathons as well. And currently, I'm paving my path in the AI industry. So that's about me and my journey.
Wow, this is amazing. Especially when you talk about women in technology, and especially in Pakistan. You're so right about
Yeah.
that. We don't have that kind of atmosphere. We don't have that culture. People don't
Hmm.
talk about it, and so you're so right. And that's why you're also part of why you're amazing is because you're working towards that. You're creating an impact, and you're motivating and inspiring so many women along the line, which you might even not know. So that's amazing. Tell me about this. Tell us about your experience with Affinity and Google developers, and what are the learnings you have developed from your work throughout these years.
I think working in Affinity and working for Google developers were two very different worlds. I mean, it was like North Pole and South Poles, because at one hand, I worked as a volunteer in leading a tech community which was powered by Google developers, and at that place, I get to engage myself into so many events, so many partnerships, so many I was meeting people and industry leaders, and I was being the forefront or the front face of something. And on the other hand, that I'm working at Affinity, I mean, it's more of sitting hold in front of laptop and the keyboards and everything. And I mean, you don't have much of the technical or creative control when you are working in a corporate world, especially in a company which is, is well established. You have no choice of making mistake, right? And so if there's one thing that I've learned is that, uh, especially from Google developers, is that it is very, very important to be out there for other people and other communities. And because, when you are leading something, when you are working towards a vision, it can create an impact that you might have never imagined about. And anyone and everyone can create that impact, even if it's so small. And I think the other thing that I've learned working at Affinity is that you really don't need a title or a position or an authority to be a leader. If you're a leader, you are a leader in any place or in any condition. So, and especially, I've realized this thing that we don't need managers. We don't need managers. We need mentors. And if you don't find one, be one. That is one thing that I've learned from working at Affinity.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, Kinza. Um, so tell me about this. Tell me about the future of Google and artificial intelligence in Pakistan in the coming years. Obviously, uh, there's been just like 3 to 5 years when startup industry has begun and
Yeah.
it's flourishing right now. But before that, there was not even talk about it. It all felt like rocket science. So what do you think about the future?
You know what? It's a funny question because the question shouldn't be like that. The question should be that what is the future of Pakistan because of Google, not what is the future of Google. Google has made itself, it's out there. And I tell you why. Because I think Google has a vision. Which is to help make Pakistan a global hub of high quality developers. Like there are so many initiatives started by Google. It expands to literally every professional field of technology. If you're a student, there is a program by Google out here in Pakistan. If you're a professional, if you are an expert, if you are, working in a startup, if you are an entrepreneur, there's some kind of program that has been initiated already by Google. So this is the thing that Google is helping build Pakistan's future. And you were absolutely right. As per the AI is concerned in Pakistan, I think the field, this particular field, is very fresh and very young, and you'll not see, well established companies shifting from their changing every day. And they're still doing things as they were doing 10 years ago in Pakistan. But the good thing is that the startup community in Pakistan is very, very fond of AI, and which is good. But I think why we still don't have AI, or why we are still not um, into that era of AI or high tech technologies, because overall, if we see, we are still warming up. We are warming up for change in Pakistan. I think there's funding issues there's lack of resources, and especially there's lack of awareness that you said that people don't. I think people think it's AI is some kind of magic that only big companies afford to do, which is not true. We just need support. We just need awareness in people that AI is something that now we should be acceptable about changing our ways, or how we use technology.
Exactly. Okay, Krinza, tell me about this. So I've been very curious about asking you this question. You're working at Affinity. You've worked with Google developers as a community builder. You've worked in artificial intelligence along the line and in technology. Tell me about this. Why Google? What's the most special thing about Google?
Why Google? I think it looks Google looks good on CV or resume. No, I mean just kidding. But I think there's no particular reason why Google, but the fact that Google was the first one, or I mean, one of the first ones to start bringing opportunities in Pakistan. That I said that there have been so many initiatives by Google in Pakistan that it stands as one of the largest tech communities in Pakistan through their initiatives. But it could have been anyone. I mean, it could have been any other companies. It could have been Facebook. It could have been AWS. It could have been Oracle. So it's all about, opportunities that aligns with your interest. So I think most of the vision that Google was aiming to create, I think my agenda aligned with that. So that is why Google. Yeah, that's the answer basically. Otherwise, I think there's no particular reason why Google.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about self awareness. I've been meaning to ask you about this, and that is, what has been your life's biggest failure, and what did you learn out of it?
Asad, my life has been full of mishaps. I mean, rather than failure, I have made so many bad decisions, which eventually turned out in a very right way. But failure as such, I think I don't have experience, which is very sad. I have not failed enough. That is one thing that I think. And it's funny that I'm looking forward to failing. But I mean, there could be two things, right? One is that maybe I'm not recognizing my failures as a failure, but as an opportunity to learn or to do, or just build a path for myself. Second, that I have an eye to catch other people's failure and learn from that. So, I don't repeat those mistakes that I've learned from someone else. And I think this is something that might be giving me edge. And that's why I'm not failing enough. That can be one thing. But I think if I have to recall a moment a moment that made me feel like a failure, I think that was basically me getting into CS field. I have come across, I have always been come across as a very creative person, and this particular field demands you to be very, very, very technical. And so I have struggled, like literally the initial 2 years of my university life. I was this confused student. I was sitting in the class of like 50 boys, and we were only two girls. And you can imagine, boys were like, they have been coding all, when they were like, what, 10? And they knew every languages, they knew how to code. And I was like, what the hell is happening in this class? And I thought I would drop out. That is something that, and I think what made me feel like a failure was that, a lot of comments that I used to hear from not just boys, but teachers as well. And that was like, whenever, I used to, or we were, so let's say, a group of girls make a project and a group of boys make a project. When you go for evaluation, you're supposed to hear one comment, oh, there's no boy in your group. How did you make this? I don't believe this is a copy. Literally, teachers used to say this, which is like
Wow,
very, this shouldn't be something.
that's
If
disappointing.
like a student, yeah, it's a student is already suffering, right? And already, is struggling, and then, these kind of comments you get to hear. So this was something that I struggled in initial years. And because of, so I'm someone who can literally visualize the end goal or the result. And at that point in my life, I think I was like blank state. I did not know how this career is going to turn out for me. And I think the one thing that I've learned from the entire experience is that you don't need to be an expert or great to do something. I think you have to start to be great. And that is what I learned. I seek for help. I look for communities who can literally help me. And there were communities who were willing to help me. There were people out there that I didn't realize that who wanted to help me. And that is why I'm so involved, because I believe, because it's the communities that have changed me and changed my life, and make me who I am today. And I think at this point I feel like it's my responsibility to build that platform that gives other people a platform where they can learn and they can grow.
Wow. So Krinza, this question just popped up into my mind while we were having this conversation. And I think, a lot of females who want to, come into technology, who want to be a part of Google, Facebook, all of these big things, and they want to produce something and they want to create an impact. What do you think? What are the problems in their way, and what are the solutions for all those problems?
It's the problem. The biggest problem is the society. I mean, society has dictated that the only reputable fields out there for women is, I mean, one, medicine, two, teaching. I mean, there's no other options that society thinks it's valid. And there's this again, I mean, there's this outdated I said that there's a gives men a privilege of thinking, they're thinking and having, they can vision themselves having great future in any kind of field, right? Why? Because we are not accepting, we are aware that this is a problem, that girls are not encouraged to participate and have a conversation about like whatever she wanted to do. But it's a lot of societal pressure. And you know what, it's not that people are doing it intentionally, it's always unintentional comments, because that is how we are dictated, that is how we are taught that these are the particular things that girls can do, these are the particular things that boys can do. And so let's say if I ask you to imagine, to just think about a scientist, you would not think of a girl, do you? No,
Exactly.
right? So there is the change. I think that mindset needs to change, and we are not ready to have that discussions.
Right.
I think that's the problem.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about health. Kenza, I want to ask you, how do you keep yourself healthy?
You know what? I literally don't think it's me doing anything to keep myself healthy. I mean, it's my mom and dad who are literally watching out for me that I don't eat junk food or eat unhealthy food, or or something like that, because I'm someone who would be really happy to survive on junk food or very unhealthy food. And I like junk food is not just like pizza or burgers or French. I like street food. वो जितना गलीज उतना लजीज वाली चीजें. I literally like those kind of food. And so my parents are literally taking care about my physical health at least. But when it comes to mental health, I am so much considerate about that. I mean, mental health is, to me, is more than anything. I allow myself, I don't allow myself to do things or to push myself in doing activities or engaging in conversations that violates my mental health. I detach myself from any kind of those things. And sometimes, I mean, sometimes it's hard because, it's there are things that are unintentionally harming your brain. You are started to think like, taking things personally. But I've realized that it is very important to be selfish, and selfishness is not always wrong. And I think it's necessity, and people should mind that. I think that is one thing. And I've always been considerate about mental health, not physical health. Don't ask me about that. Still eat junk food even after this interview.
Great. So tell me about this. While we were talking about mental health, there's lots of stigmas attached to mental health. There's no culture of considering it okay to go to therapy. And if even if people talk about mental health, they talk about the problem and not the solution itself. What would you
Yeah,
say? What could be the possible solutions? What can people do? Because let's be very honest, all of us, all in our lives, oftentimes we go through major stress, major mental health issues. We go through it every single day, in some
yeah.
manner. So, what do you think? What could be the possible or logical things to do while someone is going through such a phase?
The change should begin, or change should start from the narrative. We have been part of all the wrong conversations, and that has a lot to do with social media. So I was watching the other day. I was watching this documentary on Netflix, which was about the social dilemma, and they were talking about how social media has affected us in many ways. I mean, this is the same social media which is providing content, providing awareness, creating awareness about mental health. And it's the same on the flip side, it's the same social media that is, setting these unrealistic standards of health or lifestyle. And you know what the main issue is, that I have realized, is that we associate fitness with healthy lifestyle, right? And it's very common these days.
And it sort of creates a
Fitness
very
has,
very heavy mental pressure on people, because to be able to meet those goals, right?
yeah, and I think we have been, yeah, again, like we are always indulge in the wrong conversation. Why? Because we think that if you are zero body, if you are slim, you are healthy. That is one perception, right? But I mean, if you can't run for like 10 miles or 100 meters, I mean, what is purpose of you being very thin or you being zero figure? And if there's other person who is like eating, and he's enjoying life or something, and he can run and he can climb mountains and he can swim, I mean, who's more healthy? You tell me.
Exactly, exactly. The difference is all there, right?
So yeah, I mean, we are engaging in very different, very wrong conversations, that fitness is equals to health, or just talking about or crying in front of, or telling your family or friends about your issues will solve all of the problems. No, I mean, you have to take therapy. Psychology is a science. You talking or venting about something will not change your mental health conditions. I think you should take therapies, and people should normalize that. There are a lot of things that we are not normalizing. The stigma, I think there's a stigma in all the things in Pakistan, which is so sad that still at this point we we talk about suicide cases. We talk about people having very rough relationships, and it's all because of mental health, and because we are not engaging ourselves in that conversations, and we should start talking about that. That's the one change we can bring. I mean, just at least acknowledge that there is a problem, and then just we can seek for the answers together. That's how I think things should work.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Kenza. This has been a very insightful conversation. Now, here's my final question, and I believe that is the most exciting question of this show. And it's, Kenza, if you had all the time in this world, if you had all the money in this world, and if you had all the energy in this world to do anything to keep yourself healthy, what would you do and why?
Other than traveling or other than climbing mountains or swimming oceans, I can only think of enrolling myself in a Zumba class or just being a part of a dance group. And even if I don't dance, or even if I dance like some kind of stupid, crazy person, but I mean, I have money, I can fund them. At least that's how it should work. But I think that's going to be a very sweet sweat, which is something that I would love to do, and just dance away and have all the fitness goals. That's what I'm going to do.
Great. I hope you were able to achieve that in your lifetime.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for coming in the show. Thank you so much for your time. This has been an amazing conversation. Again, thank you so much
same.
for
It
your
was
time.
so engaging. I really love it.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Take care.
You
Goodbye.
too.